Hello and welcome back to another Banjo Adventures video. My name is Ben Dawning, the banjo player from up north, and in this video today I'm going to try and help you get out of the problem of running out of energy and not being bothered to want to play the banjo. So what do you do when you're 3 months in, you've been practicing every day, and then that dreaded day comes along where you'll take one look at your banjo and you look at it and you think to yourself, I cannot be bothered today. There is nothing in this world that is going to make me want to practice playing the banjo. I've got no energy. What do you do? So, first of all, you need to be kind to yourself. Be honest. If you can't be bothered, just say to yourself, I cannot be bothered today. I cannot be bothered to pick up my banjo. I've had a rough day at work, got no energy. The last thing I want to do is sit down for half an hour and spend all the rest of my energy that I've got left learning how to play the banjo. We're only human. We all live busy lives. It's not always a luxury that we can afford, It does take time and effort and practice and energy to learn to play the banjo. You don't need excuses. If you can't be bothered, just say to yourself, I can't be bothered. If you come into my Banjo Adventures Discord and said, yesterday I could not be bothered to learn, that's perfectly fine. I'll totally agree with you. So what do you do? So first of all, you'll notice that in some of my earlier videos, I said the ultimate practice time is 30 minutes a day. Set the bar high. And what you want to do is focused practice, learn something new, and then work on that new thing that you're learning. So whether it's the basic frailing strum, you want to sit there, focus, practice that. You're setting the bar high. You spend 30 minutes learning and practicing. But on those days where you've just got no energy and you cannot be bothered to practice, what do you do? So what you don't want to do is you don't want to break your habit. So assuming that you've been practicing every day or every other day for the last month since you bought your banjo, and you're making progress, you're making those small daily incremental gains. What you've done as well is you've built a habit. So you've built the habit of, you've set time aside and you want to learn to play, and you've created this, it's like a chain. Imagine like a chain of habit, and you've got that chain and it's solid. Now, if you decide one day, you look at your banjo and you just don't want to do it, if you don't do anything and you don't play that particular day, you break that chain. That chain's broken, and it can be hard to put it back together. Now, if it's broken through no fault of your own, so if you've had to go to like a family event or a wedding, or you're going on holiday for a weekend or whatever, that's not your fault. So when you come back, you're going to be keen to get back into it, get back into your banjo and start practicing again. Pick up where you left off. That's like the chain's magnetic. It goes back together very quickly. But if you break your chain of momentum and your chain of enthusiasm just through lack of energy, and that chain breaks apart, it's going to be it's going to require a lot more effort and energy to try and put that habit back together. So what I would say is, by all means, take it easy, be kind to yourself. And whereas normally with doing that focused practice, that 30 minutes a day, what you want to do is that bar that you set so high for yourself, bring it right down as low as you can get it. So 30 minutes goes to 5 minutes. If you think that's too much, 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, just sit down, put your neck strap on, grab your banjo, and just do that. And that's all you have to do. Do that a couple of times. Once you've done that, take it off. And that's you done for the day. That's you done for the day then. 2 minutes of that, that's you done. Because what you've not done then, you've not broken the habit. And you can then say to yourself at night time before you go to bed, you can say, I had to go today. I kept on going. I kept that daily routine up. Although it wasn't, this top tier practice session, it was pretty half-assed really. It was just down here. But what you've done subconsciously and in your own mind, you've done it. You've had your practice for the day. You didn't really achieve much. That's fine. But you didn't break your habit. And for that reason, you're still maintaining that chain of momentum. So as good as focused learning is, you're up here and you're practicing, the momentum and keeping that habit, breaking the habit can be quite disruptive to your learning. So if you maintain the chain of habit and keep going, that's fine. And then tomorrow or your next day when you do another practice session, your energy levels might be a bit higher and you might be ready to go again as you was before. If not, if you're still feeling lack of energy and you're in that mindset where you can't be bothered, just do the exact same thing again. Just pick up your banjo, put it on your knee, put your neck strap on, sit there for 3 or 4 minutes, just do the basic frailing strum, take it off, put it down. Again, come night time, you can then say to yourself, I had a go. I kept my momentum going, I stick to my schedule, practice today, that's fine. Come 2 more days or a day after, your energy levels might be back to normal. You pick your banjo up and you're good to go. You might be feeling good about it. Anyway, long story short, the whole point of this is just to keep the habit going. Yes, you don't need to practice full on 30 minutes focused, learn something new session every day. Your banjo practice session might just be a simple, just pick it up, just sit with it on your knee for 10 minutes and that'll do for today. What I used to do would be, get your banjo, get a soft toy, get a teddy or something, stick it in the back, stick it where the tension rod is in the back, so it quietens it down, put a movie on, and then just sit there watching a movie, and just, every now and again, just do the basic frailing strum, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and while you're watching the movie, that teddy should reduce the noise enough so it doesn't disturb your family and friends. And you just practice, just sit there, watch TV, put a movie on, and just let your subconscious, let your frailing hand just do the work. And believe it or not, you will still pick up habits and you'll still pick up techniques doing that. If you do find that your energy levels are not returning, then you could be stuck in the valley of despair. Now, I've got something to say on the valley of despair. It's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. So I'll just show you exactly what the Dunning-Kruger effect is right now. So this is the Dunning-Kruger effect graphed out. So you can see how confidence and competence work hand in hand. And you've got 4 key points on the Dunning-Kruger scale. You've got the peak of Mount Stupid, the valley of despair, the slope of enlightenment, and the plateau of sustainability. I've actually got a better chart, so I'll just go on to this chart. I've actually robbed this from LinkedIn, from this chap called Kurt. So if you're on LinkedIn, give him a follow, show him some credit. The Dunning-Kruger effect, and how does this apply to the banjo beginner? So the banjo beginner starts something like this. You've watched a few videos, you've heard a few songs, you've got the bug, and then you make that impulse purchase. You buy your very first banjo. That is the start of the Dunning-Kruger effect. And we all go through this. You'll pretend that you don't, but everyone goes through it. I went through it. The next step, you bought loads of books, you've watched hours of video tutorials, you've probably watched some of my video tutorials, you've learnt how the basic frailing strum works, and congratulations, you've made it to the peak of Mount Stupid. That is where everyone thinks, you know what, I think I've got this banjo stuff nailed down. I don't see what everyone's talking about, it's fairly easy. And then boom, you come crashing down into the valley of despair. You're 3 months in, you've sort of got the basic frailing strum, but then you try tying it in with chord shapes, slides, hammer-ons and pull-offs, and then you realise that the amount of work and the amount of effort that is needed to break through, and you find yourself crying in the valley of despair. What are you going to do? Now, the only way to get out of the valley of despair is through a blunt force trauma approach of practice, repetition, turning up every day, picking up your banjo, cracking on with it, spend 30 minutes practice here and there. And what you'll notice is the weeks of practice and the tiny incremental gains that you make every single day, they all start to add up and you start climbing out of the valley of despair. And then eventually you reach the plateau of sustainability. And at that point, you can then consider yourself a half-decent banjo player. Congratulations. But no banjo player is ever truly satisfied with their abilities. Now, the 2 places that people are most likely to quit, based on what I've seen and what I've experienced, is the peak of Mount Stupid and the valley of despair. Now, the people who give up at the peak of Mount Stupid cannot be helped. They are your impulsive types. They are the type of people, have you ever heard the phrase, all the gear and no idea? That's these guys. They've bought it, they've got all the stuff, they've had a go, they've satisfied that emotional need to try and learn. They've considered themselves, mission accomplished, and they've probably moved on to the next hobby, whatever it may be. They can't be helped, unfortunately. I wish they could be, but they can't. Maybe they'll come back one day and give it another try, but, there's nothing we can do, really. However, with our friends in the Valley of Despair, they can be helped. They just need encouragement. They need to be shown their progress, and they need to be able to see those small, tiny incremental gains, which, if you're learning by yourself, they can be very difficult to see. So why I've created Banjo Adventures Discord as a friendly beginner online banjo community, we can share those moments together, those tiny eureka moments where you break through and you play maybe your first tune, or you string your first chord together with the basic frailing strum. Those tiny milestones, we celebrate them together in Banjo Adventures. So I am actually going through my very own Dunning-Kruger effect right now with my YouTube. I'm creating video after video, and I'm fully aware that, it's very niche what I'm doing with this banjo learning and tutorials and stuff. And, I've got 150 odd subscribers now, and I know that my videos don't get many views, but from all the how to grow your channel on YouTube tutorial videos that I've been watching, I know that all I have to do is just keep plodding on, just keep churning out these videos, and hopefully somebody sees them, and we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, I think I've got the bug now, so I'm going to keep on creating videos. Hopefully you'll find them useful, and maybe at some point, hopefully in the next 12 months, I shall be climbing out of my valley of despair to my slope of enlightenment, and who knows, this time next year, what we are now, April 2025, maybe by Christmas 2025, or maybe by April next year, I might break 1,000 subscribers. That'll be an achievement for me. So that's my own Dunning-Kruger effect that I'm working on right now. So what is the key takeaway from this video? So the key takeaway is, if you're feeling completely devoid of energy and you look at your banjo and you think to yourself, I cannot be bothered to practice today, be kind to yourself, admit, say it out loud, say I cannot be bothered practicing today. But remember, try not to break that chain of momentum. If you can't be bothered, just sit down anyway, just use that allotted time that you set for your banjo practice, pick it up, 2 or 3 minutes, do a couple of strums and put it back down. Just keep that chain of momentum going, even if just for your psychological, just for your own personal mindset, just to say to yourself, I've had a practice today and that'll do me just fine. Lower the bar of effort, don't think that you have to constantly keep putting these 30 minutes focused, learn something new sessions in every single day. Some days, if you're feeling drained of energy, just set the bar right low. Just do anything, And even when you set the bar low, you're still making those tiny, tiny daily incremental gains. And those tiny gains add up, and they will add up, and they'll all contribute towards your breakthrough. And it's coming soon. And when you feel it, and you can string them chords together, and you can do the basic frailing strum, and you can fire out a tune without thinking, that's when you'll know that you've become that competent banjo player on the plateau of sustainability, and you are good to go, and you can then consider yourself a competent banjo player. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, let me know, and I shall see you on the next video.